when you think about Dead by Daylight, and you think about like what it was when it came out, like this game was original as fuck. Like this concept, this genre of asymmetrical 1v4 survivor horror, like just like the specificity, is that a word? Yeah. The specificity of the genre type just shows you how original it was, because there ain't no game like this. Well, there wasn't. There wasn't any game like this when it came out, and so like the developers had a lot of room to experiment and do a lot of interesting things with the genre, because they basically invented it. I haven't heard any game that predates Dead by Daylight that's like this, and if it did, it didn't really do so well. But the point is, the point of this whole thing is that people leave this game because they don't like developer choices, and like the way that developers like don't actually care about the game as like for example, the developers have like said in interviews that like they design killers like based on how fun that they would be versus if they would actually be viable or not. They don't really care about the viability, because like yes, this game will never be at Evo. Yes, this game's like kind of a party game first. This game is like a casual game first, but like there's a competitive side to it, and some people take this game as a competitive game very seriously, and I am starting to as well. I've really enjoyed this game, and I'm trying to push the meta as far as I can because I fucking love this game. This is a game that has spoken to me, and I like it more than Smash Brothers, and that's something like I've been playing Smash Brothers for fucking 10 years, 10, 11, 12 years now. And that Smash Brothers has always been my main game, but like I finally found something I like better than it, and like so like I take this game very seriously. And so like certain examples that like, I don't want to say frustrations, because I'm not having any frustrations with the game, but certain choices of the devs, it's not that they make me mad, I just find them highly questionable. Like the decision to make killers based off their fun factor versus their viability. Well, let me explain something that you might not know. It's not fun to feel underpowered. It's not fun to play fucking Freddy Krueger in this game and get fucking gen rushed and teabagged. It's not. It's not fun to feel underpowered, and it's not fun to feel like your character needs buffs. It's not. That's not a fun experience. So I think they should. I think the devs should really care more about a character's viability before they release them. And some of this new stuff that I've read in the last few patches, like for example, the new rules on pipping. They're making it harder for people to pip in this next patch that's coming out very shortly. The one that has the plague in it. They're making it harder to pip on both sides. On one hand, that's a good idea because it makes the higher ranks more special, and only the best of the best can get in there, which, like, I don't deserve to be rank 1. I've been playing this game since December. I don't deserve to be rank 1. I'm not good at juking the killer yet. I suck at Survivor. Like, when I'm in the chase, I'm fucking very bad at it. I'm usually the first one down, and yeah, like every game, including this one, I'm the first one who takes it out. And I'm also the first one who gets fucking hooked, I believe. Yeah, because I de-strike out of it because I need perks like Decisive Strike to carry me because I'm so bad at like, getting out of so yeah, the de-strike nerf is a good thing. I'm not gonna pretend it's not. But like they're making it harder to pip. Killers, it's already extremely hard for killers to pip. And like one of the emblems that the fucking killers have to like is this hooking emblem. And like they want people hooking more survivors for more emblem points to help you pip up. But like if somebody fucking dies off their first hook, that hurts the killer's ability to pip, but it helps them win the game. Like I think winning the game is if you fucking kill them. Like if somebody dies, if you kill somebody, you should be awarded all of those points for killing them. Because killing and winning the game can be hard. If you like fucking need a troublesome survivor to die, and like yeah, if you down somebody that took you 2 minutes to chase, I mean, you might want them dead. Like, is it, like, I understand. And, like, if you see somebody going up to the hook to get the save, and you're, like, right there, because you were playing hag or something, and they set off a trap, and they're, like, right there, obviously, if you're not running, make your choice, because if you're running, make your choice, you can instant down them anyway, but it's like, well, no, they have to make the save first. But, like, okay, what's better? So, just let me ask you this question. You're playing the hag in Dead by Daylight, and somebody sets off a trap that you placed, like, a little bit away from the hook, so they wouldn't, like, crouch, they wouldn't expect it was there, and so they run up, and they're about to make that save. You have two choices. You can let them make the save, or you can down them. No, you could, because you could, like, grab them and stop them from making the save. You can do that. So you can grab them and then have 2 downs, or you can let them make the save for a goddamn emblem so you can get the other guy down and hook them again. Like, it encourages killers to make, like, bad decisions, I think. Because if I'm playing hag in that situation, I want the more reward. I want it for the game. I want to have 2 downs. And if the survivors let the person die, that's bad play on their part, and that would be punishing the killer and not allowing them to pip because they, you know what I mean? Like, I'm losing hook points because you let him die when I got the second reward for downing him. Because I made a good decision and then you made a bad decision and now I'm getting punished. Makes sense? That's why I'm hesitant to, like, accept this new emblem change that they're making. And it got me thinking, because I've been looking at some videos about, like, because other games in this genre I'm finding I really do love and enjoy this like 1v versus 4, 1 versus 6. There's Friday the 13th. Last year, the Nightmare is what inspired this video, actually, even though I don't know enough, because I don't know enough about it to make a video like this. But, like, in the comments, I saw a bunch of comments from, like, ex-Dead by Daylight players that were just like, yeah, I quit Dead by Daylight because I was frustrated with the devs' decisions and their design philosophy. And that really got me thinking about my own personal, like, kind of issues with, like, with the decision of, like, I'm gonna get punished for bad survivor play as a killer. Like, stuff like that. It really got me thinking about, does Dead by Daylight need more competition and for this style? To, like, because you gotta remember, when Friday the 13th came out, like, yeah, that game's laughable nowadays, but, like, when that game came out, that was a big deal. And, like, when Dead by Daylight, like, when Friday the 13th came out, Dead by Daylight got Michael Myers, like, who is, to this day, one of the best killers in the game. Top 5, debatable, but he's up there. He's at least mid-tier. Like, he is one of the better killers in this game, undeniably one of the better killers in this game. Like, because Friday the 13th exists, we got Michael Myers, and, you know, like, you could attribute all of the movie killers to Friday the 13th's existence. Like, because we got Michael Myers then, and then I guess, I don't know how this stuff works, but, like, maybe the Saw people wanted in, and, like, like, everybody wanted in. Like, this was something people were doing, and, like, Nightmare on Elm Street obviously got in, but, like, does Dead by Daylight need better competition to, like, fucking encourage a better design philosophy from the devs? That got me thinking. I can't answer that, because I don't know. I've only been playing this game since December, and, like, I've been playing Identity 5, which is the game we're going to talk about today, for an even less period of time, probably since January. Kind of late January. So I've only been playing Identity 5 for a couple months, and I don't know everything about the game. I don't know everything about every survivor and every killer. There's a lot to keep track of in that game. The killers are, like, killers and survivors have so much more design put into them versus Dead by Daylight. Like, that's undisputed. There's just so much more going on in that game. So I thought I would give a basic overview of Identity 5, because people know Identity 5 as, like, a mobile Dead by Daylight, or I think it's on PC too. I'm not sure though. But, like, people know about it as, like, it's a Dead by Daylight clone on the phone and the iPad, which I play it on my phone. So I just thought I would give Identity 5 a little love and, like, compare it to its predecessor, because if people really think Dead by Daylight needs more competition, this might be a game you could try out. Because I do not hate either game. I love both games. But I'm going to talk about which game I think is better and like the reasons why I believe that. So when you're comparing both games instantly, we have to talk about the control. That's the very first thing that needs to be brought up because it's the most glaring difference. Because when you talk about this game, you play it either on PC or with a controller in your hand, you're probably thinking, how the fuck do you play it on a phone? Dead by Daylight on PlayStation uses a lot of the shoulder buttons to do things. So, like, in this kind of game, you kind of need buttons. So, like, how does Identity V work around that? For our phones, there's, like, a specific layout on the screen, and, like, you have to, like, press, like, the screen where the designated button, the action button is. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit awkward. Because there's just situations where, like seriously, it's an awkward game to control, especially when you're first trying to play it. You get used to it, but like, you get used to it, but it's kind of like getting used to something bad. Like, it's not, like, you never feel like the controls are any better. You feel like you're just getting used to how bad they are. Because a little phone, like, that's not even bigger than your dick, like, it can be tough to play a game of this magnitude on it. Like, so the controls for both Killer and Survivor are a little flimsy. Survivor, you can, like, because in order to, like, switch from a run to from like a run to a walk, you have to, like, press a button to do so on the screen. So when you're trying to vault or perform another action, you can accidentally press that button, which will result in you going fucking walking. It's like, I don't want to fucking walk right now. The killer is on me. So, like, there's some situations where it can become an incredibly awkward experience to control. That's on Survivor. On Killer side, you can, like, end up doing something you don't want to do. For example, Hell Ember is the basic killer of Identity V. He works by placing puppets that he can teleport to, kind of like the hag traps. They're basically just, he basically has 2 hag traps. But if you're chasing a survivor, that trap doesn't have to be activated to go off. You could do a teleport anytime you want. So basically, you could be chasing a survivor, accidentally, like, your finger could slip, or you could accidentally press the wrong button. Like the misinput scope is huge. You can accidentally press the puppet and then get teleported halfway across the damn map, and there's nothing you can do about it except wait for the cooldown, but the survivor's long gone by then. So, like, the control of Identity V but maybe if it's on PC it's a little better. But, like, I play it on the phone, so, like, so the control of the game is a big issue, and when you get used to it, again, it's not that you're doing something, like, you're getting used to something good, like, it's not actually bad, you're just, like, playing a low tier, like, they're bad, but you're just kind of getting used to how they work. You never feel like you're fighting against it all the time. You just get better at fighting against it, whereas Dead by Daylight, regardless of what you're playing on, I know consoles get a lot of hate, Dead by Daylight, you feel like you are, like, working with the game, if you will. Like, the game is not, like, the controls are not bad. Unless, of course, you're playing Nurse, which is stop playing Nurse on console. That's a different story. So, like, that's the very first thing that needs to be addressed. Yes, it is awkward playing it on the phone. The next thing about the game that's glaringly apparent is the tone. And you're thinking, well, why the fuck does that matter? Like, it's not just the art style either. The tone of the game is, like, different in its setting. But that matters for various reasons. Let's talk about it. What's Dead by Daylight's setting? Dead by Daylight's setting is in the realm of this big demon called the Entity. That's all, because we don't really know what it's actually called. It's the Entity. The Entity is this big demon thing that basically feeds off hope. It feeds off of the survivors, like, being hopeful, and then, like, their hope getting crushed. And, like, as long as one of these survivors has hope that they can escape, they will continue playing this game inside the realm of the Entity forever. That's kind of the That's kind of the lore in a very, 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 very basic nutshell. That's the lore of this game. That is why like these games technically never end, because as long as one of these survivors has hope that they can truly escape, or even the killers, if they have hope that by doing this they can get out, they can. This game will forever continue to be played. Somebody only really dies in this game when their hope runs out in the lore. Once they don't believe they can escape anymore, which is like you can interpret that as why the entity will let them escape sometime and like have like a killer that lets them get out, like because it has hope that they can get out and then it can restore their hope and then crush it. Basically, that's what it is. The entity eats hope, and so that's how it slowly consumes the survivors over years, and it only lets them truly die when they has no further use for them. And all of the maps were once real-world locations that actually existed, that the entity has that something bad happened at, that the entity has sucked into its own world because of their negative accommodations. These places all once actually existed. The survivors were once real human beings, which they still are. They are real human beings that can, like, anything that they do in this game, we could technically perform as well. Everything in this game on the survivor side is grounded in a reality. The only supernatural elements to this game are the entity and the killers that it consumes. Because, like, the hag's real name is Lisa Sherwood. She was an actual person before, like, the entity fed her power. Like, same thing with Spirit. These are all once real people that the entity has manipulated and, like, passed off kind of some of its own essence to make them supernatural monsters. That's how those transformations happen. But, like, they were all once real human beings. So, like, the entity exists on Earth, technically. Whereas Identity 5 is a more dreamlike world, a more cartoonish world. Like, all the characters have the cute little Coraline button eyes. Like, they're, like, don't get me wrong, they're, like, basically, the characters in Identity 5 are cute. The characters in Dead by Daylight are hot, if that makes sense. Like, Identity 5 would get a PG-13 rating if it was a movie, and this game would get, if Dead by Daylight would get an R. And if Identity 5 is ever brought to consoles, it'll have a teen rating. Like, yeah. The tone of the games is incredibly different, and Identity 5 has more fantasy elements in it. And why is that important? Because it can drastically alter what the killers and survivors are allowed to do, if you will. For example, Priestess is the #1 example I have here. Priestess basically has nurse blinks. She has a power that she can put this, like, flat spherical object, and then she can dash through it and end up on the other side of a wall. And any survivor that's near it can also take advantage of this ability and do the same thing. She has up to 3 of them at once, and they're there for a certain amount of time, and they have a cooldown. So, like, Magician can, like, clone himself, and then once you hit one, it'll puff up in smoke, and then he'll be long gone. Like, there's certain things, like, there's more fantasy elements in Identity 5 that can really impact how a chase works. There's one killer that can sprout tentacles up all over the place. There's another one, they're like, Hell Ember has puppets that can walk around, and, like, he can clone himself to, like, deal with pallets. Like, there's a lot more imagination put into Identity 5, where it's basically fantasy, while Dead by Daylight's contemporary. And, like, that can have a huge impact on chases because of how different things can be. Just how different all the killers are. Like, every killer in Dead by Daylight is humanoid. There's a fucking spider killer in Identity 5. And not only is there a spider killer, the spider killer is the best killer in the game and is completely S-tier and broken by all belief. It gets banned all the time and can be a competitive scene in that game because she's simply too good. And basically why she's too good is, like, she can create her own hooks by wrapping you in web. That counts as a fucking hook, and she can hook you anywhere on the map. That's part of why she's so good. But like she just has so many powers, and, like, a lot of those killers are just so overly designed. Like, there's just so many. Their new one that they have right now, you can, like, there's the central body, you send out little things to, like, go after people that you control one at a time. Like, there's just so much thought and imagination and arguably over-designed concepts. like, a lot of the strengths of Dead by Daylight is the simplicity of the game. The fact that you don't have many options. So you have to choose those options well, which these new killers, they have so many things they can do. It's just, it can really get overwhelming. Like, I discovered new things about Hell Ember, like, 3 weeks into playing it. Like, oh, you could throw your puppets too? Like, they just have so many more, they have much more options. But, like, is that a strength of the game? That's debatable. Because the simplicity of Dead by Daylight is one of its greatest strengths. The fact that every killer, they share a lot of the same features, but, like, they have unique powers that set them apart to make their MUs different. Like, they're... But the fact that... And, like, again, this is Identity 5. The controls are not very good. So, like, Identity 5 would be better played to the strength of its controls to have killers like Dead by Daylight that have not exactly, like, they don't have a lot of options, but the options that they do have really help in the game. Whereas, like, Dead by Daylight could argue that they could give their killers more options and we could keep track of it. But, like, I'd still argue that they should just keep what they're doing. Like, the Plague has a lot of options. Like, they're starting to get, like, she has a lot of shit she can do with this throw up. She has 2 kinds of throw up, Vile Purge, and, like, the Plague has a lot of stuff she can do. And she's very strong because she has more options. So, it's just interesting. And while we're talking about killers, the thing that when you play killer in Identity 5, the first thing you'll notice is the perspective. Because Dead by Daylight has a first-person perspective on the killer, which is not shared by Identity 5. The Identity 5 has a third-person perspective on both killers and survivors. Which, that kind of makes... It's supposed to make up for kind of the horrendous control of the game, that you get a better field of view, and that does help a lot. And, like, survivors can't do stupid things, like, in this game, where they can, like, get up in your face and you lose track of them. Like, dumb shit like that, that's... Like, this point of view... First person is intentionally limiting, but for Identity 5 and, like, how bad the controls can be at times, I think they made the right decision by abandoning that. Whether they did it for technical reasons to make the game easier to program, I don't know why they did it. But, like, whatever the reason, I think it speaks to a strength of the game that they decided to make it third person perspective on killers. Because, and, like, you can't, like, stealth is worse because you just have a better field of view all around at all times, and that is something that can really help in the chase. And then another thing that they decided to change about killers was the lunge attack. The lunge attack in Dead by Daylight is super fast. It has more cooldown, which so does the lunge attack in Identity 5. But the lunge attack in Identity 5 has a lot of startup. But, like, there's a reason for that, because sometimes your fingers can, like, because you're playing on a terrible control scheme, your fingers can, like, slip and lose positioning when you do, like, a quick attack and you'll miss it. So, the idea was that if you hold down the button longer, you'll charge up this lunge attack, and then you can use the rest of the time of the charge to position the killer to bring down the swing to get the precise hit. And that does help. So, they... Again, for Identity 5's sake and the sake of the awful controls, the lunge attack that they decided to implement for the game is more helpful than not. And I think they made a good decision in implementing it. And so those are, apart from how different killers can be, and like those are like the huge glaring changes with the killers that you'll notice instantly upon playing the game. Stuff that you'll need to do... Oh, there's one more, I forgot. Killers can have, like, they have their all basic powers, and then, like, for perks, they can only have one active at a time. You get one perk that you can decide from. And the act of kicking gens is a perk. So, like, a killer can't, like, go up to a generator or a cipher, as they're called in Identity 5, and then kick it. Unless they have the perk that lets them do so. But, like, they changed it because in this game, when you kick a generator, it becomes a regressing generator where it will slowly go down over time. Whereas in Identity 5, when you kick that shit hard. And like the first 2 kicks will make ciphers lose almost all of their progress. And then it gets more and more nerfed as you go on. It's like the more times you use it, and it has a cooldown. It's a perk, like I guess they thought was so powerful that it needed to start in cooldown because it starts in cooldown. The match starts with that trait in cooldown. So that's the one I run, not because I think blinking is like, I think nurse blinks are also a perk, but I think the reason I run the kicking gens is because like it's what I'm used to, it's what I know from Dead by Daylight, so I just run that. And I think it's important to like understand the differences between the two games, because like the games have the same meta. The meta is this for survivors. You want to gen rush as fast as fucking possible and fucking get out. Like, you just want the game to be as short as fucking possible, where the killer needs to apply pressure by getting down. Like, the meta is the same. It's literally the same game. Out of all the clones and all of the copycats of all of the asymmetrical multiplayer, like out of this entire genre, no game comes closer to Dead by Daylight than Identity V does. They have the same meta. The same idea as the meta. Their characters are different, because this is where we start talking about survivors. The way survivors work is that because like they have all these weird powers and like they decided that if they each had the same baseline stats, they might be too OP. So, like, okay, Priestess, who we talked about before, Priestess has that really fucking dumb ability where she can go through the walls and basically has nurse blinks on a survivor end. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, if she's over the basement, she can place it below her and then go teleport to the basement, unhook the guy, and then they can both get out really fast. But like, Priestess is only mid-tier, and the reason for that is because she sucks at decoding. She's so bad at repairing gens. Her speed is overall nerfed, and her fucking, like, her ability to, like, hit the skill checks, like, they've reduced her skill check zones immensely. So, like, she's only a mid-tier because she's super good at kiting, but she's good at nothing else. She's good at, like, I tried her, and a lot of my team wasn't good at kiting. Like they weren't good. They were good at like kiting. So yeah, they died. But like he didn't find me, so I was trying to like progress the game, but like I couldn't because her fucking decoding stats are so fucking trash. So like it's a balance. You really have to like know how to play, if you will, to like because like Priestess. If you're playing Priestess, you better be kiting that killer the whole game, or you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. That is what her purpose is, and you need to, like, Cheeto would fucking main the shit out of her. I don't know, he might main Magician because he's better, but like still. But like, so they changed that because some survivors have debuffs. Like for example, the Identity V's version of Claudette is the Doctor. The Doctor can heal herself, like, and she has, like, they basically have Claudette's botany perk. I forget which one that is. The one that like is like a sloppy butcher counter. Like, she has that, but like she has a vaulting debuff. She vaults slower, and we'll talk about why that's important later when we get into a little bit more mechanics because of Identity V. Because there is a reason where a vaulting debuff can seriously hurt the Doctor. And she's also not that stealthy. Stealth is just worse, which is the huge reason that Claudette's S tier in this game, because she blends in with the environment so well. Camouflage. But like, yeah, so like, that game's Claudette's a mid-tier. I got dead-hearted there. Talked about kicking gens and blinking and just traits for killers. Chests. The way that chests work, so we talked about how all the survivors have like differences and all that, but like their differences are slightly negated by the chests. And we'll talk about that. The chests, what they do is, they're items that they pump out, because Dead by Daylight you can get a map, a flashlight, a toolbox, or a med kit. Those are like the 4 things you can get out of a chest. In Identity V, there is so much more you can get out of chests. But basically what they are weaker versions of other characters' default traits. For example, the Coordinator has a flare gun, okay? If you're playing Doctor, you can find a flare gun in a chest. But like when you pick it up, you will be discarding your your doctor item, which is the advanced ability to like heal yourself. So basically, when you drop that ability, you're dropping the ability to heal yourself at a faster rate. And you can't heal yourself anymore. So basically, that's like dropping self-care for balanced landing. That's it. Like if in this game, if you had like this, if you found these shoes, like gym shoes, in a fucking chest, and you could discard self-care and get balanced landing instead, is what that means. You can get other versions of stuff, but it's just weaker. So like the coordinator's flare gun stuns a lot more than the doctor's flare gun if she were to find it in the chest. Or if the coordinator was to find a healing item inside of a chest, it would heal a lot slower than the doctor's. So basically, you can discard your character for a weaker version of another character, if that makes sense. You can find you can play Gardener, discard her toolbox for the magician's item that lets him clone himself, or the ability of the mechanic to like control this robot that goes around, makes saves, and like you discard that ability for another one. So like you can basically become a nerfed coordinator if you find that's what it is. So that's how chests work. It's very odd. And then I usually just don't touch them because it's like, if I wanted to play the fucking coordinator, I'd play the fucking coordinator. If the doctor's healing is unlimited, like if I wanted to play the coordinator, I'd just fucking play the coordinator. I don't need to be looking for a random item in a chest, unless you're playing Lucky Guy, but Lucky Guy's garbage because like if you're playing Lucky Guy with a flare gun, just fucking play coordinator. She's better. So, and her gun stuns longer. So it's stuff like that you have to understand and know in order to really make the game work on the survivor end. And then like how does it stack up? So you know a little bit about both sides now and how they're kind of different from Dead by Daylight. How does it hook up? How does it compare? Dead by Daylight is a faster game. Probably because it runs at a faster speed. But like, Dead by Daylight is a faster, more intense game. The maps are smaller, the killer's faster. Everybody, the tone of the game is just faster. Things happen at a much more quicker speed, which leads to a more intense experience. Dead by Daylight is much more intense than Identity 5 is, for sure. Identity 5 is slow, the maps are very, very big, so everything is very well spaced out, and you don't run as fast. Killers don't, like you don't get the sense anybody is running. Even when they're running, you don't get the sense that they're running. You get the sense that everybody is taking their time, probably because the frame rate's a little bit not as... It's just like, it's... The capabilities of the console are much better than the capabilities of the phone. And so that's probably why you see that. But like, Identity 5 is not as intense. And that's something that can make or break the game. You can literally play Identity 5 Survivor while doing other things. Which, I mean, yeah, you could send a quick text when you're on the hook in either games. But like, as you're running from location to location, you could it's much less intense. The ability to multitask is much easier with Identity 5 because of how slow the game is. So if you're into Dead by Daylight because of how intense the gameplay is, you won't find that intensity with Identity 5. It's much slower, but like at the same time, if this game is going too fast for you and you need to slow it down to better analyze it, you might really like Identity 5. Because like when the killer's on you in both games, you are in the same situation. You have 2 hits, but like sometimes in Identity 5 stuff can happen, Dead by Daylight things can happen so fast that you might not know what happened. Identity 5's slower pace can help you slow the game down in your own head and help you. That's another reason survivors can kite the killer so well, is because the game's slower, so you have a much you can like plan out your route much easier. Which is in Dead by Daylight, things are happening so fast. Unless you're running that Kate Denson perk that I really want to help me familiarize myself with these maps. Like it can be really hard to like plan out your route and plan out what you're doing. Most of the time, very intermediate survivors even will just be running from place to place hoping to Jesus there's a fucking pallet there. which is, and we'll talk about palettes in a second, because palettes are a huge thing in Identity V as well. It's just that kind of chase. It's a much more methodical style of gameplay, where it's your plan matters so much more, just because the game is slower, so you have more time to do it. Whereas in Dead by Daylight, the game's so faster, so like there's less time to strategize on the fly. A lot of Dead by Daylight's like strategy comes with knowing where you are on the map, which is done by playing the game over and over and over again. Whereas Identity V, you may not know the maps as well, but you can still plan out your route effectively, because like you just have so much time to do it in your head as you're running away. Like the best players in Identity V will use that ability to multitask, because like there's increased multitasking in that game. So if you're good at it, you will be like increasing your ability to like do well at the game, because your multitasking is also going towards thinking about the game. If that makes any sense at all. It does in my head. I hope it does to everybody else as well. I guess we'll talk about pallets now, because pallets are a huge part of the game, and we need to address them immediately. You think there's a lot of pallets in Dead by Daylight? You ain't seen nothing. You ain't seen nothing till you play Identity V. There are pallets everywhere on these fucking maps. They are all over the place. Like, honestly, if you think there's a lot of pallets on Dead by Daylight, you gonna be loving Identity V. Pallets, like, if you think a double pallet loop in Dead by Daylight is bad, was horrible, wait till you see some of the loops in this game. There are sections where there are two pallet loops right next to each other, like a double pallet loop, like they're not like right next to each other, but like next to each other. And then there are situations where like there's windows near a double pallet loop. There's situations where like there's three pallets like all lined in a circle. Then there's one situation that it's the worst spot to get in the chase in. It's super narrow and there's 4 fucking pallets. It's on the fucking Red Chapel map. There's 4 fucking pallets right next to each other near a fucking cipher? And near 2 ciphers, because there's one right inside. There are 2 generators near the safest point on the goddamn map. Because there's 4 goddamn pallets. It's fucking incredible. Like, the only good thing about it is, like, their hitboxes seem to be smaller, so you can't, like, get stuns off as hard. You have to actually, like, really time those really well. But, like, it is amazing the number of goddamn pallets, which is why the game's less intense, because when you're running, unless you're playing, like, an S tier, and, like, fucking one of the S tiers is S tier because he can down your AI and then down you, instead of having to chase you. Because he can just say, I'm going to take a picture, and then there's 4 bots that suck dick, and I'm going to down them instead of you to down you. Because I can't fucking kite them. The magician will kite me the whole fucking game. But if I find his stupid bot that's retarded, I can down him and hook him. And then you'll be downed. And then you'll be out of the game for a few seconds. That's why that character's S tier. Bullshit. Because the ability for the survivors to just kite the killer the whole fucking game is embarrassing. I have situations where I was playing as a survivor when I kited the killer the whole fucking match, and I have had situations where I was playing a killer and I've been kited the whole match by one guy. Which that can happen in this game too, but like when you get kited in Identity V by one guy, you feel like it's like, oh, if I was playing on a map that didn't have 25 goddamn pallets in this one spot, I could do better. Where you don't get that love. You don't get that love with Dead by Daylight. The amount of pallets on this game is fucking reasonable, and I don't care what anybody says. And if you think it's unreasonable, just play Identity V, see some of the fucking loops that they created. Embarrassing. And like, there's some fucking window loops in that game that I swear to God are just fucking infinites on certain characters. Because like, unless of course you have to like brilliantly set play them, but like there's like a fucking loop that is just with a window that's just so goddamn infuriating to be at. I think it's on that Red Chapel map too. That Red Chapel map is frustrating. Yeah, pallets are fucking everywhere in that game. So, like, what's the counterplay to them? There's another mechanic on the killer side that we haven't talked about yet that I also don't like. It's called Terror Shock. Okay? Terror Shock, when a survivor is performing an action, any action at all, and you hit them, it's an instant down. I do not like that mechanic, and I will explain why. So, like, for example, if a survivor is vaulting, which is where the vaulting debuffs are really necessary. First of all, the hitboxes of stuff going through windows is not nearly as bad. So, like, you can't hit the fucking guy through the goddamn window like you can in Dead by Daylight. Because you can hit the guy through the fucking window in Dead by Daylight. You can do that. That is not the case in Identity 5. Those hitboxes are fixed. But to make up for it, if you get hit while you're vaulting, you're instant downed. That breaks the rules of the game where you need 2 hits. But, like, there's stuff in Dead by Daylight where you can do that. Like, when you catch somebody on a fucking pallet, like, that's vaulting a pallet, you can catch them. The difference is that when you make a play like that, like when you catch somebody entering a locker, when you get somebody off of a pallet, I think you can catch somebody vaulting in this. But, like, the difference is you have to skillfully time that with a strategic press of the fucking attack button. You have to time those. Those aren't something you can just go, oh, I'm going to do a lunge attack from 30 miles away and then terror shock you to down you. Like the fucking hillbilly character, Joker, can just go, oh, I'm going to fucking use my fucking rocket and then instant down you 20 goddamn miles away because I'm going to read a pallet vault that you're going to do. I'm going to read you trying to get over that pallet. It's an unneeded mechanic. And in a game where you can do that to somebody, where fucking instant downs off of camping, when somebody's hooked, you can just instant down them for free without having to do like a skillful tap of a fucking button. Like, it can get pretty fucking insane. The amount of campers you see at low ranks because of that. Because like I said, I'm not exactly rank 1. I haven't been playing long, so. It can be like extremely like frustrating to be paired. It's hard to rank up in that game because of the amount of campers at low levels and the amount of people scared to deal with it. Because like there's counterplay to the camping, just like there's counterplay to camping in this game, like with the mix-ups and the fake-outs, so you don't get like down. But like the thing is, in that like you have to be so much more careful in Identity 5, and you have worse controls to do it with, because like. In this game, a common strategy is to bait the killer into, like, doing a swing to, like, because, like, the killer's trying to grab you to do the terror shock, essentially. The killer's trying to terror shock you, but you can, like, start it and release it to bait him into doing a swing, which will hit you, but since you have 2 hits, you armor through it, get the save, and then you both can get away. The killer's probably going to go after one of you, but if you have borrowed time, which is another thing that doesn't exist in Identity 5, that's an issue. The fact that there's no borrowed time even encourages campers even more. But like, so like you have bad controls, and like a strategy that has less defense mechanisms to deal with it in Identity 5, and worse controls to do the defense mechanisms that has it on, so there's more room for fuck up. So camping is better in Identity 5 because of the dumbass fucking terror shock mechanic that rewards non-specific hits, that over-rewards non-specific hits, and yeah, it rewards that kind of behavior. So camping is viable longer in Identity 5, and not to say that means I don't do it, because I even the top level players camp sometimes. The best hell ever in the world was camping, because sometimes camping is just what you fucking do, especially in the 2v8 mode that they have. Yeah, there's a 2v8 mode in Identity 5. That thing is fucking chaos. You think you want that in Dead by Daylight? No, you don't. Killers would never lose. The fucking maps are too small, and you'd have to get 7 gens done. unless they kept it at 5, which I don't know how it would work then, but like, the way it's set up in Identity 5, the maps are too small to make it work in fucking Dead by Daylight. The killers win every time because they have to get 7 of the 8 gens done, and there's 2 fucking killers. They can all just fucking camp around. They can just kind of, one killer can patrol one area of the very tiny map, and the other one can patrol the other. It'd be very easy. You don't want 2v8 in this game unless they like make the maps bigger. What, you think the devs are gonna go make the maps bigger? No, they ain't. Pretty good job so far. So, like, Terror Shock is a fucking problem. Because it just, what it rewards is not what these games should be rewarding. Which, again, Dead by Daylight's doing everything they can to fix camping. These new pipping systems are like, if a killer is near a hook, they lose points. So like they continue or trying to fix this low-level camping issue, because people that camp are never pipping up ever. And speaking of pipping, that's the only thing we have left to talk about. Pipping is different in these games. In Dead by Daylight, pipping can be done any time of the day, whatever. Anytime you play a match, it's considered a ranked match, and you can pip or de-pip at any time. Whereas in Identity 5, ranked matches are only available for like 3 times a day for 2 hours each. So you have to like, yeah, they're only available for basically 6 hours of a 24-hour day. And I don't do those a lot mostly because sometimes I forget, I don't have time, etc., etc. So I'm still at the lower ranks, but like, it's free because I'm still at such low ranks that I just slaughter everybody and get 4Ks all the time. Because, like, if you understand Dead by Daylight, especially if you main Hillbilly, you're fine. Because you can just pick up the Hillbilly equivalent Joker, who's also S tier. There's a few things you'll have to change, like, his rocket's not an instant down, but, like, it's still fine. It's still stupid, and still helps you deal with, because like, since the maps in Identity 5 are so big, they have a lot of wide open spaces. If Hillbilly were to exist in Identity 5, he'd fucking slaughter everybody and would be the best killer in the game, no question. Just because, like, he can actually just fucking instant down them, whereas Joker cannot. But, like, on the other hand, and like, on the other hand, if Photographer was in Dead by Daylight, he'd be fucking broken because the map's so fucking tiny. He would have no problem finding those duplicates and downing and hooking like 2 of them to down 2 people, and then you're all fucked. So Photographer would be dumb if he was in Dead by Daylight. Photographer in S tier in Identity 5 is made worse because of how big the maps are. If the maps were as small as they were, Photographer would go, ooh, look at that, I am now the best killer in the game. Photographer, again, Photographer is good because he can down your AI instead of you. Which, like, can you imagine that shit? Fucking Nurse would still be broken in Identity 5, don't worry. Any killer that could unlimited go through the walls with no cooldown, yeah, that's fucking busted, and no matter what asymmetrical multiplayer game you're playing. Busted. That's an inherently broken mechanic so much that it's an ability with a cooldown in Identity 5. So what are you pipping? So you can only play those ranked matches a few times a day. Well, I mean, once ranks open, you can unlimitedly play it. It can be hard to get matches sometimes, just because everyone's doing it. So if you're, it takes a while for the game to like do it. But like, so it's interesting that these games exist because like they have the same meta, but they have some dumb mechanics. Like there, that would be a Terror Shock, and she'd be downed in Identity 5. There's stuff in that if you fucking added to this game would be broken. Like there's some of Identity 5's mechanics into Dead by Daylight, it'd be fucking broken. If you add some of Dead by Daylight's mechanics into this game, like fucking Ruin or Noed or any of the instant downs that exist, that game that'd be fucking busted in that game. So like they have the same meta, but like their mechanics are just different enough to the point where it'd be so strange, because they could easily like break each other. So it's really funny, but like we have 10 minutes left, so it's time to start discussing which game is better. So given everything that I said and like all the issues that we have with both, that because like yeah, Dead by Daylight's not flawless, gen rushing's still a problem. survivors still win too easily, which I'm sure that's the meta of Identity 5 too, because that's how it usually always is. There's just more of them. It's going to be harder to balance them because they have more people. So what game is better? Well, Dead by Daylight is the more intense experience, and it's more like a traditional video game because like the controls are better no matter what you're playing with. The controls are better. It's a more intense game, and there's less dumb bullshit mechanics, and there's less pallets for defense. Dead by Daylight is no question the better game. Just it's faster. It like you get more. You get more playing it, I guess. You feel more exhilarated playing it than Identity 5, which you can honestly be bored playing sometimes. If you're not like really thinking about it, you can honestly be bored playing Identity 5 because of how slow it can be at times. And like with bad controls, like Identity 5 has bad controls on the phones, and like that can be frustrating, and that can like some people like I figured the controls out because I love the genre enough to like I want to play Dead by Daylight on the go. But like the reason that like Identity 5 is still worth a play is because it's fucking free. There's no reason to not try it. There's no reason to not try it. It's a free game that they could charge money for, and it would still get bought. Now, like a lot of the stuff that they charge you for in game, like it's hard to unlock killers. It's hard to unlock survivors without paying. So like that, if that turns you off, fine. Because like yeah, this game has a lot of DLC, but like you start the game with like 4 survivors and 1 killer, and you have to earn the rest. I earned Joker. Joker's my recommendation because he's an S tier. He's really easy if you play Dead by Daylight because he's just hillbilly. And he's the least amount of money. And then as you learn more about the game, just main Joker, pip up with him because he's really fucking easy. And then you can learn more about the game via that way. Save up for just play Doctor. She's Claudette. Just play Claudette and Hillbilly. And then save up and learn more about the game that way. And then if you're really into it, you can keep playing it or just drop it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to make an investment in Identity 5 because you can unlock Joker. If you grind the game, you can unlock Joker within a week. Honestly, he's not that hard to unlock. And like he's so good, he's so worth it. Like it's like Hellember's not even bad. Hellember's like yeah, he's a mid tier, he's the weakest mid tier. But like if you're an average Dead by Daylight player like me, you're gonna enter Identity 5 slaughtering everybody, just because it's just easy at those lower ranks to look because no one knows what they're doing. And if you come in with experience, because again the games have the same meta, if you know how Dead by Daylight works, you know how Identity 5 works. So just play Doctor and then play Hillbilly. It's free to pip up, and then you can save up for other killers. The 2 games are basically one and the same, I mean, if you want to call Identity 5 a ripoff and not give it the time of day, then whatever. But like, this all spawns from the fact that does Dead by Daylight need more competition to like make them make better gaming decisions that like make the game better? Like, I would argue that they actually might with these upcoming changes that I feel like are kind of dumb. With the new pipping systems and making it harder for killers to pip, even though it's super hard already. It's hard for killers to win, let alone pipping. And so I'm interested to see how Last Year is going to do when it comes out on console, because that's a thing that's going to be happening soon. Yeah, I'm going to buy Last Year when it comes out. I like this fucking style of game, and I hope I hope it keeps getting bigger and bigger. I hope we get more. And then you don't have to make everyone like that. What Identity 5 shows above everything else is that you don't have to make it like super violent. You don't have to make this genre super gory. Like you don't have to keep it away from like PG. Like you don't have to make it teen. And like some parents are dumb and like it's just some people won't let their kids see Dead by Daylight. But like if you make the game more like, I don't want to say parental friendly, but like not as dark and not as violent, and give it like cartoonish themes like Identity 5 decided to do with the art style, you could potentially attract more people. Like, for as dead as everybody says Identity 5 is, there's a lot of players on it. There are people on there every fucking day, and like, it doesn't take long to find matches. It is a game worth trying, I think, if you like Dead by Daylight at all, because like, yeah, it's not as good, but like, it's also fucking free. So like, you're not paying $25 for it. So it's not as good, but it doesn't have to be, because it's not. I don't want to say it's not trying to be, because they really put a lot of hard work into that game. They like that, but like, it doesn't have to be, because you're not putting any investment in it. So like, with money, so like, it in turn doesn't. It's not obligated to give you a fucking 5-star experience. Because like, yeah, I'm frustrated with the controls sometimes, but I also didn't pay $25 for a game with bad controls. This is a free game that I can willingly go delete anytime that I want. So if I'm making the decision to fight with the game's controls because I want to play it, that's my decision. Like, yeah, it doesn't make the controls good. It doesn't make the game like good, but like, what it does do is like, it's a free-to-play game on the App Store. It's basically Flappy Bird. You know, like, if you invest more money, you expect more quality. So like, if you go in knowing what you're getting, you shouldn't have an issue with it, I think. I like the game because it lets me have my 1v4 craving on the go. It lets me play it at college. It lets me play it when my fucking little brother is down here hogging the PlayStation. It lets me play it when... it's gonna let me play Dead by Daylight when I'm on vacation. Like, that's why I play it. Because it allows me to, like... It allows me to, like, play the game without playing it. And that's worth something, I think. It's worth at least checking out, and if you don't like it, like, you might not like it, you might hate it, and that's fine. But does Dead by Daylight need more competition? If it inspires them to do better, and if it inspires them to like start making killers because they're good, it might be fucking worth it. So that's why I just decided to like give a little spotlight to Identity 5 today. And just kind of discuss it, because there's no video on YouTube that compares the two games. Kind of like this one. I've looked for one. It kind of there's people like saying it's mobile Dead by Daylight, but no one like made a video comparing them quite like this. And I think that's about all I have to say on the subject. The last thing I want to say is I want to do my self-plugs for the Rose Garden Discord. I'm trying to start a server where it's not set up yet, but I've been posting the links to my videos. It's just a fucking server where just trying to help people that have mental health issues that also play games. We have a few people in there right now that are trying to like help get it sorted out and like make some of the like help get the bots working and all that good shit, and like we're gonna end up posting it on Discord sites and all that shit. And, you know, and Identity 5 does have a channel in there, as does Dead by Daylight. So you can, whatever, if you're interested, you don't have to be. It's fine. Plus, we're all mental in there. It's kind of a thing for getting in is you have to be over 18 and you have to be mental. No, you don't have to be. It's just a lot of us in there are probably going to be. Just for a place for people like myself, and now we can watch me get this last down. Yay! But, yeah, that's about all I have to say. I'm just gonna go ahead and let the rest of this play out rather than cut it off, because there's only another minute left. But the video's basically over, so, I don't know why people think Leatherface is so bad. He's very limited at certain maps, but like at these maps he shines. I don't know why people think he's so garbage, because he has a lot of stuff that I think has a lot of potential. If you just make his chainsaw a little better, and like not a lot of cooldown, you could easily make his character high tier. It has so much potential to be good. Alright, boys. And with that last hook and everyone's gone, I think I'm just gonna hop off here. Ciao.